Watch this.
Ahead for you on this Friday edition of the 208. Do you think you can make ends meet on $2,075 a month? Now, these days, a higher percentage of people in Idaho are on tighter budgets, and that $2,000 mark is a unique barrier in economics. Andrew Bartline tells us the details. It's Friday! Hooray! We made it through the week. So let's look at some questions that you had. A popular topic, Raoul Labrador's departure from the Central District Health Board. We'll dive in. Plus, back to school. Yes, it is that time. We followed along for a major move-in over at Boise State. We'll take you along for the ride. The 208, it starts right now. For years, governments and nonprofits have been tracking different numbers to understand the impact of COVID, which often goes hand in hand with inflation, housing market, cost of gas and energy. You already know all of this. It's more and more expensive to just live, and even so, to the point where it's out of reach for some workers. They can't make ends meet. Well, United Way of Treasure Valley calls this ALICE. It's an acronym that means you make too much money to qualify for most assistance programs, but not enough money to really make ends meet on your own. So you're in that gap population. Well, this year, United Way released their first ALICE report since the COVID pandemic. And statewide, we've learned a higher percentage of people are on tighter budgets, and they're living in that gap. Here's our Andrew Bartline.
Underneath the perks of living in Idaho settles an unsettling problem.
How much it costs for just the basics of a household budget.
A balancing act.
Do you guys think you could live off $2,075 a month?
Seemingly with a thumb on the scale.
Not in any feasible way.
All right, well, if you want to try, let us know. We'll see how a budget might seem to work out.
Better described as meager than generous.
Yeah.
Andrew Shumich gave us a lesson.
It's kind of small, if you're not just a single person and need something more than just the basics, I think.
Supposedly, that's all it's for.
Well, I guess I'd have to add it all up, I guess.
So start with rent.
I guess I pay about $1,000 for a one-bedroom.
Okay, so that's half.
Which I think is, I don't know, maybe kind of about median.
Where?
North End, 10th Street. That's probably about as good as you're gonna find.
Which sets up his budget for about as cheap as we could find. Utilities.
I probably average around $150.
Food.
Yeah, I eat out way too much. Probably close to $400.
And now for the car bill.
Ideally, get as low as possible, which is what I do. I sometimes have to change the tires and maybe
$20?
do some maintenance on it. Pretty much pay nothing. I don't know what you'd split a bike cost up into.
Do you own a car?
No, kind of a conscious choice of mine, and it's worked out pretty well.
Through lifestyle and a little luck,
I've kind of kept with it.
it's possible.
So what's this budget supposed to come out to be? Because the ALICE report says people are living on that line. Well, they say that your rent is $454 a month. Not sure where in the Treasure Valley you're supposed to find that. Utilities, $154. They say food comes out to $470, and your transportation is $328 a month. After all that, you're left with $669. That can help you with things like your phone bill, but the bottom line is they say that number just isn't working for people.
The numbers.
Every person across our region.
Compiled and reported.
Correct.
By Megan Ramalley's team.
The experience of financial hardship is still significant across the Treasure Valley.
Still, meaning it never left.
We're at 43% of residents across the Treasure Valley are experiencing ALICE. And ALICE is an acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained Employed.
More than 4 in 10 living on that line. But that data lags behind years.
Reflective as of 2021.
Meaning the trends may be worse than we know.
Yeah, it just barely hits.
Already on the border of sustainability.
Emergencies happen all the time.
And it'll be years till we find out.
Maybe you're sharing rent with someone and someone has to move out of the house and you have to cover the rest of the rent, and that doubles, for a few months, and then all your savings is gone. All sorts of things can happen.
To be clear, the budget we worked through was for a single adult. That ALICE threshold is a scale that increases as a family would grow. United Way of Treasure Valley releases this ALICE report every 3 years. So it would be that many years until we know the gravity of the situation today for the people of Idaho. United Way warns the consequences of people living in this ALICE gap, Joe.
Yeah.
That could be taking on debt for basic needs. For kids, it looks like poor performance in school, lower mental health. That's become something that's increasingly in headlines, things people talk about. So yeah, there's very real impacts of this, and they see that trend growing. They think it's worse than what this report says, again, because that data is 2 years old.
And I think the way you highlighted it too, talking with that young man who's a single adult, he might have, a whole list of expenses, and we saw that illustrated, but he doesn't have kids, as far as I'm aware. He doesn't have kids, he doesn't have a family.
He's paid off his student loans, so he's good. Like, that's a really good example of someone who is lucky, right? He said, I understand I'm the exception, not exactly the rule. That ALICE budget they have broken down, it's like less than $500 for rent. Show me where that's at in the Treasure Valley. I'm jumping on it right now. So the numbers certainly have changed in 2 years.
Well, I was just playing on a notepad when I was reading through your story earlier in the newsroom, and I started to do it myself of, okay, here's what I spend on all my things. And you could see that, money, it runs out very quickly if you don't have any other sources of income or you're not working or living with somebody else. So these types of scores, I think, are going to be really interesting to see in the next few years, because we talk about COVID and the impacts of COVID. We won't know what that is for years, as you highlighted.
Yeah, we know where it's trending. We'll see where it's at soon.
Yeah. Andrew Bartline will follow the ALICE reports. Thank you.
Today is August 18th. This is the time and the place for our monthly or bi-monthly Central District Health Board of Health meeting.
Central District Health was back to business early this morning, and agendas there have drawn significantly less public attention compared to the more COVID-focused era. Remember that? Of course you do. We also were just talking about it. Anyway, there was a change to the CDH board this week. Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador stepped down from his role on the board, and Labrador served on the CDH board beginning in January of 2021, and that is when 2 of the 3 Ada County commissioners appointed him to that position, and that was well before Labrador was elected as Idaho's Attorney General. He replaced former Ada County Commissioner Diana Laciando, by the way, who lost her re-election bid in November 2020. So that's why Labrador was on the board. But he's gone from the board now, and we've seen your comments and questions on that decision. And there is a question that we saw in a few different forms that we will answer right now here on a Friday. So here you go. This person writes in, I'm curious how many health meetings that Raul Labrador actually attended. He has an extensive history of not showing up and not doing the work. That is from Melissa. Melissa, thank you very much for the comment. I'll start with the second part of that comment about a history of not showing up. I actually fact-checked this back in 2018 when Labrador ran for Idaho governor. At the time, he was Idaho's congressman, and I found that he missed about 4.7% of votes while he was in Congress. In 2018, he explained to me that he did miss some extra votes and did spend some extra time that year with his family on a few different occasions for some personnel matters. For records, by the way, congressional average for missed votes is really about 2.3%, so Labrador was a little bit higher than that, but he explained why. Anyways, on the CDH attendance question, here's what we found. Raul Labrador only missed 1 meeting during his term on the board. It was November 17th, 2021. Outside of that, he was in person or virtually at all board meetings, so there you go. Another question, though, that we have gotten, who will replace Mr. Labrador on the CDH board? Well, an Ada County spokesperson tells us that the commissioners are going to work to fill Labrador's seat as soon as possible. Their goal is to do this by October 20th. Well, there's always more going on the 208 than we have time to touch on, so we're going to give you some snippets of some of the things that you need to know. Here's the 411 on the 208. Right now, a judge is considering 2 motions that could possibly put Brian Kohberger's October trial date to a later time. Kohberger is accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students last fall. His legal team wants the judge to pause court proceedings because of alleged issues with his grand jury indictment. The defense isn't happy about how jurors were selected, claiming the questionnaires that they were given didn't have important clerical information. Kohberger's team is also arguing for more access to DNA evidence. The defense attorney says investigators found DNA other than Kohberger's at the murder scene that they haven't gotten the chance to review. But the state of Idaho says they've given the defense all the evidence they have. The defense is also calling several witnesses. Many of them are DNA genealogy experts. Those witnesses are still testifying. The hearing started late this morning and could last for another hour or two. We'll update you coming up on the news at 6. Ammon Bundy has not had a good couple of weeks. The latest, the Gem County judge has issued a temporary restraining order against the anti-government activist and his wife and his political organization. This happened earlier this week. The order bars Bundy from selling or transferring any property that he owns. It also prevents him from pulling money out of any financial institutions unless it is to pay for regular living expenses, up to $5,000. The temporary restraining order will remain in place until the next preliminary injunction hearing. That's scheduled for August 28th. This new order is because of a new lawsuit that St. Luke's filed against Bundy on Friday. The one accusing him of fraud, hiding his assets in shell companies to avoid having to pay St. Luke's the $52.5 million that the hospital was awarded in its civil lawsuit last month. A wildfire is still burning 10 miles east of Cascade. It's called the East Fire, and it's burned more than 2,700 acres, and it is 0% contained. No word on how it started on Wednesday, but it is burning in heavy timber near the junctions of 4 service roads 409 and 405. We'll keep an eye on this one. Heads up, today is the last day to apply for absentee ballots for the upcoming school bonds and levies election on August 29th. You can only vote if you live in the boundaries of a school district, so look on your screen and see if you live in one of the counties listed. If you do, hooray, you can go vote. And those counties have at least one school district with an election on the ballot. You can also check out our entire voter guide at ktvb.com right now, or even easier, text the word VOTE to 208-321-5614, and we will send you a link right to your phone. There are 2 more nights of the Caldwell Night Rodeo, but be aware, the committee president of the rodeo, Paul Adams, warned us that there are tickets being resold for hundreds of dollars, even though those tickets are only $35 to $45. Sadly, the Caldwell Night Rodeo is sold out this weekend, but for future events, make sure to buy tickets off of the official website, caldwellnightrodeo.com. And if you're looking for something fun to do tonight, well, you're in luck because the Western Idaho Fair is now underway. You can go until the 27th of August over at Expo, Idaho. Enjoy rides, animals, and of course, lots of fried food. Yes, on a stick. Admission ranges from $9 to $12 depending on your age. Of course, kids in 5 and under, they are free. We'll see you at the fair. There are some great combinations of street signs across the valley. Brian Holmes and Kevin Esslinger visited some classic crossroads, and you at home, well, you caught some of your own. We're going to share some. You've got a nice eye for this. Something else we should see? Tell us about it. Easiest way, text in 208-321-5614. Please be sure to include your name and hashtag the 208. We'll get to some of these live at the end of the program.
If I asked you where you were right now, you wouldn't know.
Well, I know that I'm on Franklin.
You're on Franklin.
My husband told me that.
You're on Franklin. Mm-hmm. Do you know what intersection you're sitting in front of?
No.
Can you take a look back there and tell me what you see?
Benjamin
And
Franklin. Corner of Benjamin and Franklin. Sort of.
say that one more time.
Benjamin and Franklin. Sort of.
Does it hit?
Oh, geez, Louise, Benjamin Franklin. That's funny.
Okay, so you guys remember that one? That was a good one from only 24 hours ago, but we asked you to send us your interesting Idaho intersections, and you did not disappoint. Here we are. So let's get some of these comments up in the Megatron here. This person said, Deborah said, love the street sign story. Check out Caucus Way and Congressional Drive in Meridian feels fitting for the 208. Sue in Boise said, you forgot the most famous one in Boise. Picture appears in Boise High yearbooks often. It's on Boise Ave where it intersects with High Street. It's history. Speaking of High Street, Scott in Boise said, what a stoner move. Brian, you missed the best one in Nampa, the corner of Greenleaf and High. If you think of any other good ones, please send them our way by texting 208-321-5614, or you can actually email us, the 208@ktvb.com. Back to school time around the Gem State. In here in Boise, the Broncos are going back to the stables. Get it? Boise State, Broncos, okay, whatever. It is move-in week though, so we joined along for the rush and excitement of it all. Fun week moving your kids to college? We want to hear about it. Text us. Maybe you got some good pictures with it too. 208-321-5614. Please use the hashtag the208. Oh, and don't forget to sign the text. We'll be right back.
Well, we have a bit of a weather mindset shift ahead for us because, as you saw, our focus has been on the fires and the hot temperatures. Now looking ahead, we're going to see a much stormier pattern emerging, and a lot of that is going to be because of moisture coming from Hurricane Hillary, remnants of it. It's right now still in the Pacific, but it is looking to move north and impact places like California and the Baja California Peninsula. So again, right now it's a Category 4 storm. And in general, when we talk about what could happen with the weather, us meteorologists combine our science knowledge with, we sort it between what's a higher certainty and what's a lower certainty, try to put together a forecast. So I wanted to sort through a few different parameters for you to talk about what is higher certainty and what's a low certainty. So the storm is unlikely to make landfall as a hurricane in California. We haven't even seen a tropical storm make landfall there in 84 years. And that's because a lot of that fuel for that storm is areas to the south. This hot seawater is the fuel for this storm. So as it moves northward, you lose a lot of that heat and it encounters cooler water. Now, the water to the south is especially warm right now. And anytime this storm interacts with land, it's going to lose more of that power as well. So similar to a car running out of gas, it kind of coasts for a while still not having all that power. That's similar to what could happen with that. So unlikely to make landfall as a hurricane in California. However, it is still possible. We are now seeing that possibility, but unlikely for that to happen. Also, high certainty that it will cause flash flooding and possible landslides, this particular hurricane, because we're talking about lots of moisture in a short amount of time. You can see as we look towards areas to the south, a lot of that moisture falling between Sunday afternoon and Monday morning. So between Sunday afternoon and early Monday morning, some spots are looking at more than 2 inches of rain. So about 2 to 3 inches is the forecast right now for Southern California, even more so as we go towards the more northern parts of California and towards Nevada. And so as we go forward in time, it's going to be a lot of moisture and not a lot of time. So what we're still looking at that has a lower certainty, because again, this moisture from this storm is coming from the Pacific. So for us, we're looking at where the highest rain totals will be and the timing of that rainfall. So if we look at that same time frame for us, you can see again, a lot of that moisture is going to be falling from Sunday night until Monday morning. And so we could stack up quite a bit. However, I don't think we'll get quite to 2 inches in Idaho, but for lower elevation spots in Idaho could be a little bit more in the mountains, but we will be looking at where this band of highest moisture will move. Overall, a very stormy looking forecast for us in the days ahead.
All right, thank you very much, Sophia, and I know our team of meteorologists will be following that very closely. But this week we marked Move-In Day over at Boise State. Remember the rush and the excitement of moving all your stuff into a dorm room at a brand new place? Well, if you have forgotten or maybe you never got the experience, so photojournalist Jason Foster followed along on Boise State Move-In Day.
Welcome, Cameron. Glad to have you.
Have the full experience of Boise State when you're here.
Just taking my stuff in the dorm, I guess.
And let people give you a hand so that you can make it a wonderful day.
I want the GoPro cart. This is crazy, moving someone into my old floor.
We are the Hollenbaugh, Tammy and Brad.
You could sign that QR code.
Moving in, yeah, our baby.
I am putting together a coffee cart for my daughter.
Yeah, I'm getting famous.
That's starting Boise State.
Let's take a GoPro. Should we? Yeah. Hi, guys. She's been filming for 5 minutes.
I'm so happy to have the students back. We're thrilled to have them here. It's wonderful to feel the energy coming back up on campus today, and we're just so excited to be able to help out.
Oh, shoot.
Through there? Okay.
Super excited for her. She's so ready for this. Maybe a little too much, but just bittersweet that I won't have my girl home anymore.
Who's happy to see him go?
Well, it's for a Keurig coffee maker.
So do you get under it?
It's essential. Coffee, you most definitely need it every morning.
And have elevators.
And we're gonna put our lovely little snacks in these, and then we have a cute little Keurig to go on top.
Okay, this way.
No, this way.
Nervous, a little bit excited, you know, a little bit of everything. Kind of taking it all in right now.
Me and BFF Bridget are in room 205. This is my man, Kevin.
Hi.
Yay, Kevin!
I've been a professor for 35 years too, so
Okay.
I know a lot about what it's like. Let's go.
Hi. This is my roomie, and this is 205, where we'll be living for the next year. Come on in.
Hi. Welcome to Boise State. Wow. Welcome home, ladies.
You here?
Yeah.
That's where I lived last year.
Gives a little bit of a mental hospital vibe.
And it was like 2 guys, so yeah, that is a little weird.
This is our lovely little room. This is where I'll be sleeping.
I just moved people into my my room from last year, so It's little knots.
This is my desk. This is where the lovely coffee table is gonna go.
Well, she has guys over here, so that's a little weird to share bathrooms.
Yeah.
So I said go downstairs.
You wanna go talk to someone about that?
Is that weird, Mom? Is that weird?
It's very weird.
It's a very social room. I had like, you know, it was like basically sharing with like 8 other people.
Go Broncos!
All right, let's look at some of your comments to end the program. This person says, the Alice Report, where do they get $454 for rent in 2023? I lived near Fred Meyer at Franklin and Orchard from 1985 to 1987 in a one-bedroom apartment for about $400 a month. Today, it's about $1,200. Yeah, I think those Alice Report numbers are probably looking at some previous numbers in terms of housing. This person touched on it as well. Rent for $454, my rent spiked in 2019. There were increases for $650 in 2015 to $915 in 2019. The same apartment now $1,400. We're gonna have to get back to the Alice Report next year. Here's a Vandal, thrilled to be up with Joe Vandal up at school. And this person says, you keep asking for a quick text. That's a quick text. See you next week.